to our 41st President George H.W. Bush, who passed away at 94 this weekend. And the tributes have been pouring in from family and former presidents. And, you know, and looking at him as president, compared to, you know,
it's a different time.
You know, it suddenly puts everybody in a different perspective.
Yeah.
You know, and it reminds us in a weird kind of way, sorry, I still got the call, how you can still not agree with somebody, but be respectful of somebody. And that's why, that's the thing I think I dug the most, is him rolling with Bill Clinton, you know.
He seemed to be
taking care of
coming
business
from a loving, kind place also, the man. That's what I am gleaning from what they're talking about, that he was loving. You know,
he was also known for
nice.
his humility as president, like, and he talked about it a lot, that he was there to serve the people. He's a combat veteran. He's actually our last combat veteran to ever serve. He lied about his age to join the military, the Navy, after Pearl Harbor. An incredible life of service to our country. He was a two-term congressman, ambassador to the UN, chairman of the RNC, United States envoy, director of the CIA, and 8 years as vice president, and then obviously became president himself. But his love story with Barbara Bush, more than anything, is what touched me. They did interviews up until just, I think, 2 years ago with Jenna, where they're crying about their love for one another, and he died 8 months after her, and I just think it's a really beautiful example of a life of service and a great love.
That's why this weekend, so true. I felt like it was more of a celebration than anything else. It was a celebration of life, as you said, Meghan, of marriage, of a life of service. They were married 73 years, and Jenna, his granddaughter, interviewed him recently on the Today Show, and he said when he dies, the first person he wants to see would be Barbara if she goes first, then his mother, and then his 3-year-old daughter, who you remember passed away of leukemia. What I love most about him is that he was a family man, and he always put his family first. So you said he was the first envoy of China to China, and actually my family lived in the same home 35 years later that he lived in. And they still talk about him there today as being humble, as being funny. He was funny, and he was real. And I loved his relationship with the press, because we talk about that a lot on this show. And they were tough on him. It's not like they were easy on George H.W.
The press is tough on every president. That's part of their job. They're supposed to be.
He had such a respect for what they did.
Yes.
And the role that they played. So I think there's so much to learn from his life. And I hope that the next generation, they may not know him the way that we do, the way we remember him, but I hope they learn from him.
I want to say one thing about him that was not picked up really, because as a candidate, he said, those who think we're powerless to do anything about the greenhouse effect are forgetting about the White House effect. And then he signed into law the Clean Air Act Amendment of 1990, one of the most sweeping environmental statutes ever. This president that we have now is trying to unravel everything that he did and Obama did. And if I ever become a one-issue voter, it will be about pollution and the greenhouse effect and the fact that...
Can we focus on the president, please? I don't want to talk about Trump.
Well, I do for a second, so excuse me.
We're honoring a great president who's
Excuse me a second, please. I want to talk about the difference...
But I'm not interested in your one-issue voter.
I don't care what you're interested in. I'm talking.
Well, I don't care what you're interested in either.
We'll be right back.
The back and forth between Joy Behar and Meghan McCain, it actually goes back to yesterday. So they were doing a segment about George H.W. Bush. Understandably, we dedicated almost the entire program to reflecting on President Bush's life here yesterday. They were doing something similar at The View, and Joy Behar decided to turn that on-air discussion into a bash fest about President Trump. And I think yesterday on the show, Marie made one snide remark about Trump in the context of George H.W. Bush. And look, I fully understand plenty of people are not fans of the president. But Behar couldn't help herself making Trump somehow the focal point of this conversation about George H.W. Bush, someone who, by the way, Joy Behar never supported. Right? Trump has unique flaws, I think, in his character and his approach to governance. But it always does seem to be this strange new respect that liberals develop for Republicans once they're dead or once they're out of power. And then it's the new guy who's or the new gal who's the manifestation of human evil. And boy, the party's moved so radically right from fill in the blank, right? It seems like a pattern that we see. And so here we go, cut 41. This is from yesterday's show. This is what happened on the air. This was very testy back and forth. Then it spilled over off the air, apparently. But listen to the exchange from yesterday's program first, cut 41.
This president that we have now is trying to unravel everything that he did and Obama did. And if I ever become a one-issue voter, it will be about pollution and the greenhouse effect and
Could
the
we
fact
focus
that...
on the president, please? I don't want to talk about Trump
Well, I
when
do
we're
for
in
a
the
second.
moment
So,
of we're honoring a great president
Excuse me a
who's
second,
passed.
please. I want to talk about the
We're
different...
honoring, but I'm not interested in your one issue.
I don't care what you're interested in. I'm talking.
Well, I don't care
You
what
know
you're
what?
interested in
We'll be
either.
right back.
Boy. Okay.
All right, so they go to break. Whoopi jumps in and says, all right, we'll be right back. So what Joy Behar was doing there, as you could hear, was fixating on the current president when the entire purpose of yesterday and this week, frankly, is to not really think all that much about 45, but about 41. But she got on her soapbox about pollution and the greenhouse effect. Okay, fine. They go back and forth. McCain says, I really wish we can focus on President Bush, please. I don't want to talk about Trump. We're honoring a great president. And then she gets snippy. She says, I'm not interested in your one-issue voting when a president has passed away. I'm sort of with Meghan on this. Some people online, incidentally, have chimed in on Twitter and elsewhere saying maybe Meghan McCain was being a little bit hypocritical because you remember she used her eulogy of her own father at the National Cathedral to take some pretty clear shots at President Trump, who was not invited to that funeral. And saying, well, let's leave Trump out of it. In this case, I get that point. I think that's sort of a fair point. But in this back and forth between Joy Behar and Meghan McCain, I'm obviously on Meghan's side because I don't think it's a classy thing to turn the reflection and the remembrance of a recently departed great man into a hate fest against the current political leader or leaders that you don't like. I just think it's unseemly. That's what Joy wanted to do. Meghan shot right back at her. They got at it. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you think. Let's go to commercial break. So they go to commercial break. So Mediaite and others have reported at this point Joy Behar kind of lost it. And she was shouting loud enough for the studio audience to hear that she was threatening to quit because she couldn't stand Meghan McCain. So according to multiple witnesses who were there, off the air, in the commercial, Behar says, quote, I can't take this much more. Get this B word under control, Behar reportedly said, adding, I've tolerated a lot of S on this show, but I'm at my wit's end with this entitled B word. Enough already. Enough already. I'm not playing nice any longer. So she talked about leaving the show if they don't get Meghan McCain under control, calling her an entitled B word and referring to her S word. And this is just, Meghan McCain is often the only right-leaning voice on that show. Joy Behar is a close-minded ignoramus who's frankly a bigot. She's had to apologize in the past for her bigoted comments about Christians. I think she's a bigot, and I don't use that word lightly. She's definitely a loudmouth and a bully and a dum-dum. She's all of those things. And it doesn't surprise me that she cannot handle the terrible chore of 1 or 2 segments a day having to interact with someone who doesn't agree with her and who fights back. That's the thing. On that show, they like placid, smiling conservatives who concede every point. Right? When the brass tacks go down, when the cards are down, they like a passive, right-leaning lady to just sort of smile and not pipe up too much. But Meghan McCain isn't that type of person. And because she's from, I think, a powerful family, she feels liberated to say whatever the hell she wants. You're going to come after me, I'm a McCain, I don't care. I'm a McCain, you're Joy Behar, I don't care. It's very clear that's what they said on the air back and forth in their little tit for tat there. And Joy Behar I can't take this much more. The View has to be one of the best, easiest jobs in media. You show up, you have these conversations. It's a good show. There's a reason why it's lasted for so long, with a rotating cast and different people in and out. There's a great formula there. But having a disagreement, political disagreements with one person, shouting, saying that she needs to be taken and put under control, calling her a B word in front of the studio audience, that is really unprofessional. The problem here is not Meghan McCain. The problem here is Joy Behar and her short fuse and her unprofessionalism and her lack of knowledge and her lack of patience. And frankly, maybe there are people who tune into that show to watch Joy Behar. The last thing I ever think, any day of my life, any hour of any day of my life is, oh, I wonder what Joy Behar thinks of any topic, ever. But apparently there are some people who will tune in, they'll listen, they got to get the hottest, freshest, piping take from Joy Behar. I'm not among that demographic, probably not the target demo there. But if this is the way she's going to comport herself, then maybe she's the one who needs to be put in a timeout box. Maybe she can't take it anymore. Great. Don't take it anymore. Leave the show or get suspended from the show if that's the way you're going to act in front of the studio audience.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.